All right, cool. So yeah, this is part three. One sec. This is part three of absolute and relative truth. I was just gonna leave it at two parts, but yeah, I just basically just wanted to kind of do a conclusion and just like make it really clear. Like if you was kind of you was following along and maybe there was still a few things you didn't understand. I just wanted to just like fully clear it up. Just I made notes. So this one's gonna be a bit more structured. I made a little clip. It's about 15 minutes yesterday, which was also a bit of a freestyle. I was still continuing on from the last from part two, so I'm gonna put that after this. Um, I was a little bit lower energy, and you'll see at the beginning that my laptop, that my fan was playing and whatnot, but you can still hear me. It just goes on for like 30 seconds or something like that. But yeah, so just watch this bit, and then literally 1 or 2 minutes into the video, I start getting into it, and then that 15-minute section, I'm gonna continue on from there. Basically, you'll see it. You'll see it. So yeah, the absolute. When everything, what I'm saying, just in layman's terms, is that everything is itself. So, in the world that we live in now, the dream, the relative plane, as I explained before, everything is made out of relative truths, dualistic, opposites. Everything's just opposites. One day it's this, the other day it's that. The next day it's this, the other day it's that. One day you're good, then the next day you're bad. One day you're right, then you're wrong. But then, as I said, there's the absolute, then there's all the divisions, and then like you could kind of imagine that your ego, your character, obviously is changing, but you could kind of imagine that you could kind of pin it somewhere to where it has like, for example, 60% like this character like thinks of themselves as righteous, as opposed to 30% is like they think of themselves as like the opposite of that. You know what I'm saying? They just think of themselves as a bad person or whatever. And then like they have like 20% like, you know, you get the point. Like it's kind of like, even like you see on them FIFA stats, like where it has like, you could kind of imagine it like that, but there's just infinite dualities. Like every single duality, like it's just right. So this is the lower plane, and really nothing is true here. That's what I'm saying. It's all just imaginary. It's Maya. It doesn't exist. Like the thing that basically is blocking everyone is the physical paradigm. So that's basically what everyone's kind of subscribed to nowadays, which is kind of the idea that reality is made out of something. It's made out of stuff, matter, atoms, like quarks, strings, whatever you think it is, like it's made out of matter, or you think it's made out of energy, or you think even it's made out of consciousness, or you think it's made out of like you just have to question, what is consciousness actually made out of? Not I'm not saying, sorry, not what consciousness, like what is reality made out of? What is it actually made out of? And then you might think that it's made out of multiple different things, like it's not just made out of one thing, like it's made out of loads of different things. But like, what are all those things contained within? Do you get what I'm saying? So like, all right, cool, like let's say like at the top, like at the very bottom, it's made out of like atoms or something. Like, what are atoms made out of? So this is what I was kind of saying about another important point is that time and space scale, like time is essentially co manifests with space. There's not actually a difference between time and space, because, as I said, it's just the 0 point. Like, really, it's just in eternity. There is no time or space, and it's just as like the two dimensions happen, like time and space. Like as time and this is why scale doesn't really scale. There's no such thing as scale. It doesn't exist. Like, everything is in comparison to like another point of reference. That's why I was saying everything is just a point of reference. I'm a point of reference. He's a point of reference. She's a point of reference. You're a point of reference. That dog is a point of reference. Even that rock is a point of reference. One of them might have awareness, like we do. Like a dog might have awareness. We might have higher awareness than them, but we're still both equally like conscious. Consciousness is the... this is where it gets just so tricky. I made some notes. Of like things that I was gonna fill in the gaps. I actually made some notes, so this is gonna help me because I'll make it a bit more structured. But yeah, so the physical paradigm, that's what's blocking everyone. Like, you think that everything is made out, like, for example, this body is made out of like you have a skeleton, you have organs, you have skin, you have like, which is also like a organ, then you have like cells, then you have like like all kinds of stuff, atoms and fucking mitochondria and nucleuses and synapses in your brain. Like, and we basically, this is the trick, right? We will explain down to a certain level, and then we'll kind of start dismissing it. Like, so we'll be like, oh yeah, like, and then like, yeah, human like is made out of bones and like flesh and is 70% water and whatever, and then we'll kind of like say something like that, and we'll be like, yeah, calm, that's what it's made out of. But then you've only basically gone down like 1 or 2 or 3 or maybe 10 levels or like 100 levels. But as I said, if you keep going down, then let's say like that nucleus is made out of something, and then that's made out of atoms, and then that's made out of quarks or whatever. You keep just going down, right? Like, we're trying to get to the bottom of reality, which is also the top. but so we're trying to basically just decipher this, right? Like, let's just say it doesn't really matter what you think it is. Like, let's say you think it's energy or consciousness or atoms, whatever you think it is, this thing that's making up like everything. Because as we said, like, even we've already like debunked that it's made out of many things, because like, all right, cool, you're gonna keep on going down, but then what is that made out of? And then what's that made out of? And then what's that made out of? Like, and then your mind's gonna just, as I said, you're gonna dismiss. But no, right here we're not dismissing, we're going and we're actually gonna basically just cut right through. Like, this is what you just need to just slice. It's no time for games. Like, so this is kind of what you need to start thinking about. Like, what is everything made out of? And this is why I kind of even got to this, because scale, because actually you're never gonna, like, there's even this idea of the Planck's length, which is like the smallest observable thing that makes, that like has substance, or that like means anything. Like Planck's length, like there is no Planck's length. You could keep going down. Like, bro, think about how every single scientific fact or whatever that we found before, at that time they thought they were super advanced. They thought they knew it all. At every point in time in history, like, we thought we were in that reference point at that time, because the future hadn't happened yet. So at that time, it was modern times. We always thought we was at the peak, so we was always arrogant. So now, 1,000, 2,000 years later, it seems like, oh, of course, like those times it was like barbaric, like low stages. Like, of course they didn't know whatever. Of course they were wrong, and of course, but now we know. Like, it's all fugazi, like, we, like, all right, cool. There might have been things that we we keep on debunking the past facts, right? But then even these ones now, don't trust these ones. They're gonna get debunked in the future. So we need to forget about the relative dualistic plane. It doesn't exist. It's not made out of anything. Like, and this is why I was explaining scale, because this is where it will hit, because this is why I was talking about the 0 point, because like, just go on YouTube or something, or on Instagram, whatever, and you see them videos where it scales out, and then you see the Earth, and then the solar system, and then the like galaxy, and then the fucking Milky Galaxy, whatever, like, you know what I'm saying? And it just keeps on going forever. And you can even zoom in forever. You see like you see fucking like microorganisms, and like big ones, small ones, and then all kinds of shit. It keeps going. But then we kind of, because we don't have the tools yet to go deeper down, we say, oh, like that's kind of like the bottom. That's the bottom. Like, but no, it's not the bottom. Like, it could just keep going forever. There is no bottom. Like, and this is why, as I said, time and scale, or time and space and scale, these things are all related. It's like it expands together, if you get what I'm saying. Because if there's a space, like, when is it happening? It has to be happening at a particular time. Like, and then it's just they're co-linked. You can't have time without space, right? And then, so this is why I would even suggest to you that, for example, like, let's say, for example, like, what's a day to us, right? What seems like a day, which is not like a second. It's not very short, but it's not really long either. It's just like a day, right? Like, it's a decent like thing of time. Like, if you basically zoomed in on the microscopic level, on the quantum level, and then you was like with the like the microorganisms or whatever, it would, like, a day would be like 1,000 years. But then if you zoomed out to like the Milky Way, a day is like a microsecond, like a, do you get it? So time, space, and scale, these things are all like co-linked, because it's all linked by the 0 point. It's just literally just the same thing, just scaled in or out infinitely. Do you get what I'm saying? So this is literally what fractals are. If you go on YouTube, you watch fractals, and it keeps on zooming forever, and then like there's a point, like you're looking at it from far, and then it looks like it's just a thing, but you zoom in, and then there's a whole nother universe, and then a whole nother universe. This is literally how consciousness is just moving. It's always onto a new universe. Do you get what I'm saying? It's just, there's the same frame has never occurred twice. Even though there's been infinite frames before, it will still never go back to that, because there's infinite more. We're in eternity, we're in infinity. Like, just really think about it. Like, how could this have been created? When did it start? When did it begin? Like, how could something come out of nothing? It didn't. It's nothing now. It's always been nothing, and it always will be. It's just that nothing can't be like stagnant or black or just a void like you think it is. Like, think about like what you think was before the Big Bang. Like, and you think, oh, like, if there was nothing, like, if there was no creator, or if there was no Big Bang, or like some kind of cause or something, like, it should just be nothing. Like, there shouldn't even be stuff, right? But there isn't anything. It's just that we think that there's things. Like, it's just, it sounds so stupid. And then you think, all right, cool, but if there isn't anything, then how could there even be something to think that there isn't things? And it's just the layers of the dream. It's immaculate, because we're speaking, as I said, yeah, the absolute truth, it is itself, it's true, and it's sovereign, because it's absolute. So when I'm saying absolute, that means it is itself, and it could never be any other way. This is what you don't understand. This is why I'm saying it's eternity and infinity, because you feel like this exists, right? You feel like this exists, but it could not exist. You feel like this exists, but you feel like it could be another way. It could have been this way. It could have gone that way. Like I could have chose something different yesterday, and this and that, but or they, like the Big Bang might have not occurred. Like all these probabilities and all this kind of like, no, everything is absolute. You don't understand, because even if let's say something is infinitely small probability, like 1 in a quadrillion chance, in eternity it will still happen. It has to happen. In fact, there's no doubt. No matter how small the probability, everything will happen in eternity. Just think about it. Like, and think, if you think this is crazy, right? So when does time end? When did it start and when will it end? So this is where we even get into the Big Bang. And like, because I would even suggest, obviously this is a speculation. This is a speculation like here. But I would even suggest, and even certain modern physicists has even suggested this might be true, that there's been multiple Big Bangs and crunches. And this is why I would even suggest this is just another fractal nature. Everything else is just smaller, kind of like, and think, everything, life is, as I said, the oscillation, breathe in, breathe out. Like everything is oscillating, it's the vibration, that's life, movement. Death is stillness, as I said, the void. Life is movement, deviation from the void, deviation from death. You arise, but you always must fall back into the void. But life is always moving. There's no constant frame. There's no still frame in life. You know what I'm saying? It's always moving. Even people think they're doing nothing, or they think they're chilling. You're not chilling. Even when you're chilling, you're thinking, or you're watching, or you're speaking, or you're on the phone scrolling. You're just always doing something, being. Because this is in time. Like in time, it's always a ing, but like it's always a process. As I said, this is the dream in the dualistic plane, because nothing's absolute. It's always just pinging and ponging. It's just some things remain that way more like longer, but you know what I'm saying? There's no stable footing. There's no ground to stand on. There's just nothing. Like it's just an appearance. Like, and this was another thing, for example, I wanted to explain, is that the difference between, for example, a dream that you have at night and then this dream, I already explained that it's the length, like mainly, but the other thing is that the physical paradigm backs up this longer waking dream. So, as I said, everything is in fractal nature, to where like there will be smaller things within a larger thing, within a larger thing, within a larger thing, right? And really that goes out forever, and in forever. But and that's actually called holons. I'll explain that as well, like the whole holography of the universe. But yeah, one sec. Alright, cool, yeah. So I've just literally, you might be able to tell I'm recording on my laptop now, because I wanted to be able to just, what the fuck, oh yeah. I just wanted to be able to, there's even like notes on my phone, like even little clips and videos that I can just show you something, because we're visual creatures, we're it's a lot easier to kind of show you and kind of, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, where I left off in that last clip, there was two things I was basically saying. There was one thing I was saying to where I would suggest something to you, but that was speculation. But I didn't actually finish explaining that yet. And then I got led on to another thing, where I was basically speaking about the difference between the nighttime dream and the daytime waking dream, which everyone will just, the status quo is to think that this isn't a dream. You're only dreaming when you're sleeping. This is real life. But then I was explaining scale and all these things and holons. I didn't completely explain that yet. But as I said, so there's the point, the reference point, the 0 point, and then you have like one boundary and then another boundary and then another one, which is kind of like that you know, in part 2, that thing where I drew and then there was a circle and a circle. It's kind of like that. And then, but really, even the point, it seems like there's just a point and then there's a bottom. So like there's the bottom layer and then everything just gets bigger than that. But it actually isn't. It's just that at one point, what the larger circle was, when you keep zooming out, that larger circle will be the smaller dot. Do you understand? And it can happen backwards or inwards. So the main thing about holons and holography, rather than thinking that things are made of atoms, like holons is perfect, because what a holon means is that it's a part and a whole at the same time. So for example, this body, it is a whole, but like this is just one unit, one body. It's like a complete body, right? But it's made of parts. I've got a head, I've got arms, one arm, two arms, torso, legs, all of this shit, right? Let me, if I can put this on. All of this shit, right? So it's made of parts, but it's also a whole. And then let's say this arm is one whole arm. So this is itself is just a whole, but it's made up of like bones where you got this section, you've got the bicep, then you've got the tricep, then you've got the elbow, the wrist, the hand, the fingers, and then you take this thumb. That's a whole, but it's also a part made of like a part of the hand. And then if you take, so you see how the hand is also a unit which is made of parts, and the hand is itself like a whole and is made of parts, and then those parts are also wholes which are made of smaller. So this is the nature of fractals, and that there's no bottom. That was the whole thing what I was explaining, is that you could keep on going down. You think it's made of atoms, you keep on. And why this is so important is because the thing about the physical paradigm, right, where it gets really tricky and why this is so important, what I'm explaining to you, I'm not just trying to just be speaking philosophy and stuff and, oh, it sounds nice, it's interesting. No, like I'm trying to really like just teach you something. I'm just trying to just show you something so you could recognize. You have to realize this for yourself. If you don't, as I said, if you just believe me, it's not going to do nothing. All of these things you have to realize for yourself. As I said with the blind man, like no matter how many words I say to you, you just need to fucking go look and see it. And then you're just gonna, all right, cool. So that's out the way. But the reason why this is so important is because, for example, when you're subscribed to the physical paradigm, right, it feels like when you're subscribed to the physical paradigm, first of all, straight away, you're identified with the body. Straight away, you believe in time, you believe in space, you believe in matter, which is small building blocks, which build up the reality, right? Like, it doesn't matter what you think the building blocks are, if they're atoms or whatever, but you think it's made of loads of small units which build up. And then essentially you think that it's bottom up. You think it's bottom up. Everything in this reality, we have to build bottom up. You have to build a foundation, then build and build and build. Everything is through time, linear, right? Process, as I explained before. And what the thing is that, right, if you're subscribed to the physical paradigm, you think that you was born. As I said, because you're identified with this body which was born. So you think, oh, I was born at that particular time or whatever. Right? And so you think that there was a world before you, the existence, you think the universe, it's always been here, right? Like I was just born into the universe. So you feel like a subject within an objective world. And objective, when you say objective, like it's there, like, so as I said, you think that it was there before you. You think if you go sleep, you think the world is still out there behind the curtains doing its thing. You think you will die and the world will still be there doing this thing, right? This is the like real thing about the physical paradigm, and even the difference between the waking dream and the nighttime dream. Because in the nighttime dream, and this is where the holons come in, because everything I say, sometimes I might forget. This is because, as I said, with the tree, there's so many things, but every single point I said is trying to explain something, or it's leading somewhere. So you need to just watch these a few times. You need to actually think, why is he saying this thing? You know what I'm saying? So, but the reason why I was explaining the holons and all of this thing, right, is because if there's just the nighttime dream is a smaller dream, right? And then when you wake up out of that, because think like every time you escape, like what's happened, as I said, dreams end. That's what makes it a dream, is that it's limited. Some things are longer and then they seem more real. Like, oh, the earth has been here for so long. The earth is real. That's not just a dream, bro. Like, no, it's a dream. It's just, as I said, the scale. That's why I was even saying with the scale and all these things, but even all of that. And that's why is time and space is because as it extends, they're always co-linked, because it's just the same thing. It's just a different dimension of it, right? So yeah, your waking dream is also just a larger dream. It's just a larger, longer dream, right? So, and as I said, every time you escape one dream, it ends and it's completely gone. It was really there. It was really real. Like, no matter how many times I tried to tell you, or someone tells you, your dream was an illusion, or that daydream, or that hallucination, or if you let's say you saw anything, I don't know, you had a dream last night and you saw this, or even if it wasn't a dream and one day you actually hallucinated, like you saw something that's not like physically there or whatever, like even if all right, cool, like, because this is another thing, is connotations, all these things, right? And consensus reality. With consensus reality and the connotations, what we kind of say is real, it means it's physical, it's solid, like it's there. It doesn't matter if you're thinking about it or you're imagining it. We'll say and an imaginary elephant, that's not real. But then this elephant here, like if we actually had an elephant, right? And then we'll say, that's real, like, because it's physical. Look, I can look at it, I can see it, I can touch it. And then this way it gets tricky, because as I said before, your direct experience is king, right? So if you don't see it here now, like, dismiss it. That is correct. And what I'm saying here, that would kind of even make it seem like, so what you said before would suggest that, yes, actually it's true, that the real elephant is real, but then that one isn't, because with this one I can see it with my senses, right? But still no, because really, even if you're seeing it with your senses or you're imagining it in your head, I had to use analogies, but you have to realize every single analogy I use, and this is another thing, even though it's annoying for me when I keep on using the word like, it is just a bad habit, but also I do use it for a reason. Like. I'm saying it is like this. It's not this. As I said, because everything in language is limited. Everything in the dualistic plane, which is what we're in right now. If we was in that, like, absolute, there wouldn't be me and you, like, even though this is happening within the absolute, really it is the absolute, but you're not conscious of that right now, because you wouldn't even be able to hear what I'm saying. You wouldn't even recognize me as a human being if you was in the absolute state right now. You wouldn't even be able to be, YouTube, like this, like, there's not even fucking gap to, not even time or space, or, do you understand? So right now we're in the relative plane. So language is all I have. So, but language, just another main thing, and this comes with the physical paradigm, is that the map is not the territory. The map is not the territory. Like when I write, one sec, I've got fucking, fucking hell, where is it? Alright, cool, yeah, I was gonna use red, but fuck it, right now I've just got to use this. And this shit has when it comes to the higher stages, I say it's very basic and it's obvious, but you don't. What's not obvious is, first of all, you're not gonna click it. Your mind's not gonna be able to grasp it, which is all it knows. And furthermore, you're not gonna understand the ramifications behind it, or what that really means. But so what I'm gonna say is very simple and obvious, but I'm saying this for a reason. So the word purple, this word purple, is not purple. That's purple. That's a word, a name, a symbol to indicate at this. It's very simple, basic stuff. And you're going to be, of course. Of course, I know purple isn't purple. But what the problem is, right? And this even happens with top scientists, is that they get so caught in models, maps, like imaginations of the reality. So, and then because as I said, everything in this plane is bottom up. So you have to kind of build it like a structure, like a pyramid. You have to build from the foundation. So if all you're found, and these are like axioms, if this, then that. If this, then that. As I said, because everything is conditional in this plane. So, and in this plane, so if everything's conditional, if this and that, and then you have to build upon fundamental assumptions, like for example, if we're gonna build a building, and then we're gonna use bricks or something, like we have to assume that those bricks like won't just turn into dust by tomorrow. We have to assume that the laws of gravity will still be the same tomorrow. We have to assume that, you know what I'm saying, the earth won't get hit by a fucking meteorite tomorrow or some shit. All of these things which are like, because they're very small probability, and as I said, we have such a small thing, it may say, oh yeah, well, yeah, like the earth wouldn't get hit by a fucking thing, or the bricks aren't going to turn into dust. Like we know this, but this, what I'm saying is the only reason why you seem so certain on that is because you have such a thing, and then this particular condition has been like that for a while, and you assume again that it's going to continue to be that way, but things could be different on any given moment. So the main thing, what I'm trying to move you from is from thinking, oh, this is purple is this. That's really purple, right? Every single word, and this is just one thing, every single word, every single symbol, every single appearance is not the thing that it's indicating. Nathaniel, my name. I am not Nathaniel. I was me before I was given the name Nathaniel. Nathaniel is a label which is secondary. I will still be me if there was no Nathaniel. Do you understand? And this is very simple stuff, but the problem is we kind of forget this in practice. We know that, yeah, of course. But in practice, you're going to you're going to be treating the map as the territory. And this leads to all kinds of problems. So the whole reason why I went on that whole tangent is because I was speaking about the analogy that I use. And so that's why I was saying every analogy that I use is very close. And that's why I keep on saying it's like this, but it's not that. Okay, you need to still remember, it's not that. It's like this. So he's saying it's like this. What is he actually pointing to? If I point at the moon and it's over there, don't look at my finger. Look at the moon. Okay? This is where people, they start fucking worshipping Jesus. Jesus fucking wasn't God. Jesus was just trying to show you God. Hello, look, God. But then people start saying Christ, he's God. He's God. Like, nah, he's just a fucking human who he became realized. He was as close to God as any of those people were or could have been, right? So I agree with that. He was like a prophet, like God-like. But he wasn't God, or you could say he was God, but then everyone's God. There's not a fucking. You see boundaries. Where is the boundary? Look, you see my body right now. Look, the boundary's here now, and then it's here. And where is it? Like where am I really? Where am I really? You know what I'm saying? Like it's just and as I said before, the main problem is stagnancy. You still think that this is the same me. You still think this is the same human speaking to you. You still think I'm in the same room. You still think this is the same YouTube video. It's not. There's no such thing as YouTube. What YouTube is now is different now than what it was 10 seconds ago, and that way different from what it was 10 years ago. It's just that things change gradually, and it seems like, oh, it's still the same thing. It's only until it hits a certain point to where it's changed so drastically that you can't even recognize the form, like to the original form anymore, and then we call that death, you know? But Even death, that's just debunked death. So yeah, there was a particular analogy. I'm just gonna rewatch this and check exactly what I was speaking, and then carry on from there. Yeah, yeah, I remember exactly. So I was explaining them with the analogy, right? Because there was one point, I think it was in part 2 or in part 1, where I was kind of explaining to you, you have to use your direct experience, but then I used the analogy of like your hands. But this could also mislead you because your hands, and then remember how I was saying, oh, like, remember that's imagination, like that's imaginary, your hands, and that's not really your hands. This is your hands, direct hit. That was true, but still, it's very, like, as you go higher in the levels, it becomes very nuanced, which means the answer is always on the lower levels. As I said, people think, oh, it's just this or it's just that. But as you keep on going higher, it gets very nuanced and subtle until to where it will be this. But even though it's that, is this like little detail, and even though that is, and then it's like it's a completely different, it's a different game. Like, it's very nuanced. So even though that was true, the reason why I kind of had to like clear this up is because even though, yes, this is my physical hand, and then that's just an imagination of my hand, but still, even though that's just an imagination of my hand and this is actually my physical hand, what I'm speaking about in the absolute, this is not more real than that. This is only more real if you subscribe to the physical paradigm, because this, if you subscribe to what everyone believes in, is made out of atoms and is real. Whereas that was just an imagination, like it was just an image. The only reason why I even use that analogy is because most people, the average person who subscribes to that paradigm, they would kind of get the difference. Oh yeah, like that, like it's like fleeting. This is like real. So he's telling me to like just look at what's real. But even you could get lost or trapped even from that, because I'm not saying in the absolute that imagination is unreal. I'm actually saying that that's exactly the same realness as the hand, as long as you can perceive it, no matter how subtle. So this is where I'm saying, like, for example, thoughts and emotions, things that hardcore physical paradigms, people who are logical, they subscribe to everything like modern, like, oh yeah, science and all of that. They think like, oh yeah, like logic is like the most highest, and emotional, or like whatever, all of that is just like, you know what I'm saying, it's not real. Like it's or like your emotion or your imagination, all of that is fake, right? Because what are they using to measure? They're using physicality and solidity to measure. So they're saying, because that was a thought, because it was just like an imagination, it was just in your brain, synapses in your brain, like this is a physical thing made of atoms, and you don't have to imagine it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like we could cut off this hand, give it to someone else in another room or in another country, like freeze it, send it to them, and they'll have it. Doesn't matter if like you like imagine it or if you're seeing in it or whatever, like, because the difference between those two things is the idea of physicality and solidity. And that's basically what I've been trying to debunk this whole time about the holons, because you think the only reason why you think that this is solid, even though, yes, there is a difference in quality of this and that, this is way more dense. That, like, an imagination of your hand is like more slippery. Like it kind of like you see it is there, like it is there. And that's basically what I was explaining in the analogy just before, is that you did see that thing, like whatever it is, because I was explaining how in the dream, as long as it exists, it is real to you. So no matter how many times people tell you, that dream was just a dream, like, you know for yourself, you was there. It was real. The only thing what makes it different is that it ended and it was very fleeting. So I know I'm going all over the place here and it's getting jumbled, but the main point, what I'm saying is that the only real difference between a waking and sleeping dream is the length. But what people think it is is actually that, no, this is just an imagination couched in your brain. So you have to, as I said, because things are bottom up, you have to always explain. Like, let's say we're trying to explain like this hand, where it came from, which is a higher level thing. You have to kind of, as I said, explain below, like the foundation, what it's made. And then why I was debunking atoms and all of those things, and why I explained holons and how there is no Planck's length. You can't go to the bottom, because the whole idea is you'll go to the bottom and it may be very small, it may be small, or maybe we haven't found it yet, but I'm sure there's something at the bottom that is just loads of those multiplied, and then you just build up, right? So it doesn't even matter if it's atoms or whatever, but you still think it's physical and it's solid and it's something that's there, that it would still be there if no one observed it. That is really the wrinkle, is that you think that even if no one observed it, that it would still be there. But what I'm saying, right, is that whole idea why I just said that is that we explained that, okay, the nighttime dream was couched within the brain. So we just say, oh, it was just activity in the brain. It was weird. We don't really understand, but we can see like they're like on the brain scanner, like, yeah, your brain was doing all kinds of waves and stuff. So we don't really know how, but it was just your brain doing kind of waves, processing stuff. And then so it wasn't really, it was just a dream, right? Yeah, it was real, but it wasn't really real. It wasn't physical, like it's gone, right? So, but then we say, oh, now you're awake. This isn't just like some dream. Like this, you're actually in the world and you're perceiving with your senses the world that's there, physical behind. Like there's always, as I said, the subject and object. So the idea about the physical paradigm is that there's a physical world and we are all subjects within it. And the world is just the world. And then this person might have an opinion, that person might have an opinion, right? And it doesn't even matter, but the world is still itself. And even though that's true, but the problem is that they think that it's like, they think it's physical and that is real. Like this is something that's real. Like this is something that's real. Like they're all things that are real, right? Like that's something that's real. And they would even say that both of these are real. They would say both of these are real, right? But you're saying that it's made up of something. It's solid. You think that it's not dependent on the object perceiving it. And this is where we even get into quantum mechanics. Because I already debunked to you that there is no bottom. It's a hole on there. You can keep on zooming in. I remember I was telling you there's no ground. So the whole purpose of the atoms or the quarks or the strings or whatever you think, even if you think it's consciousness, this is where some spiritual people get caught in this trap. And I got caught in the trap where you think, everything is just consciousness, which like is just like this fluid kind of thing. And then it's just consciousness, or it's just all energy. It's just all energy. But no matter what you think it is basically just, it's just a placeholder. You're just putting something there and then just saying, whatever it is, it's just loads of those, and then it doesn't really matter what they are, as long as they're solid and they're there. And as I said, you think that they're absolute. You think they're absolutely there, which I've already debunked to you before, that there is only one thing that's absolute. You can't say that there's many absolute things. So that's why I even said, like, you can't say that this is absolutely true and that's absolutely true. You can say they're both relatively true, but you can't say this is absolutely true and that's absolutely true, because absolute necessitates sovereignty. It has to. If this is absolutely true, then nothing other than this can exist. Is absolute. Do you understand what absolute means? So in quantum mechanics, right? You could even like do your own studies. You could even like look. You can even like look at what some of the quantum mechanics are saying, and that the main thing is that what you'll see with the double slit experiment, all of these things, is that everything, like what even is science? People they put such faith in science, like this new science thing. Science is like the new religion, scientism, and I still think that science is better than kind of like old school religion or just believing in the Bible, whatever. Like, because science is still a bit more like you're still actually checking. You're still actually, which is kind of what I'm telling you. You have to do your own inquiry. But the problem is that now even science has become so like you. A lot of scientists, they'll do an experiment or a hypothesis or something, or you'll say, Einstein said this, therefore that. See, you're already basically, you're using Einstein's findings as your foundation to build upon, which already assumes that Einstein was right, which you don't know. You're just believing. And and then as I said, so and then there's always bias, and everyone, so you're trying to say you're smarter than Einstein, or you're trying to say Einstein was wrong or whatever, like this is blasphemy or whatever. But then, as I said, everything in the past has been debunked. It's just that, someone close now, like you might think he's a genius now until he fucking gets debunked. So, essentially, what quantum mechanics shows is that the object is always altered or influenced by the subject perceiving it. So when they kind of do an experiment or there's like the slits or whatever, you have to go watch a video like separate on actually quantum mechanics, and then you'll see like when it's not observed or whatever, then it's a wave or it's a particle. I can't remember which one, but then when it's observed, then it turns into a particle, so on and so forth. So all of these experiments, what it's essentially saying is that the subject affects the object that is perceiving. In fact, anything that's being measured, as soon as you measure it, the object that you're measuring gets affected by your measurement. So what that means is, like you watching this video or me looking at the moon, like if I look at the moon, that has an effect on like what the moon is or how it's perceived, because if there was, and this goes to the classic philosophy question. For example, if you had the color red in empty space, just in a void, like just in a void, in the middle of nowhere, there's just nothing exists and there's just red, but no one to look at it. Would it be red? Would it be there? Like if there was just red, there actually was red, but there was no one to look at it and see it, would it still be red? Or another one is like, if there's a tree in the forest and it fell down, like a really large tree, a big tree, and it fell down, but no one saw it or heard it. Did it make a sound? See, this is basically what you need to start like getting, and then deep down you kind of know, deep down from all on the layer surface, from all your conditionings, you're gonna say, of course it made a sound. Doesn't matter if someone saw it or not, like it made a sound. And then if there's red, but there was no one to see it, like I don't even know what people would think. I don't even know what people would think with that. But the main thing that I'm saying, right, and what I was explaining more before with the physical paradigm is that, as I said, you think that you're born into an objective, and the problem with, as I said, with objective is that you think it's stagnant. You think that it is a particular way. You think it is that way, and that's just the way it is. So every kind of thing that happens, right? Let's say you see something, you perceive something, you think that you discovered it. You think it was already like that, and you just discovered it. That's basically the problem, because you think you're discovering it, but you also don't realize that you're affecting the discovery. For example, did we invent mathematics or did we imagine it? Did we create mathematics or did we invent it? I mean, did we invent it or did we discover it? These are the kind of questions that you need to think about. Let me actually just go to my notes, because otherwise I'm just going to fucking be flopping all over the place. But yeah, so the main thing is that there is no... in the absolute, so the difference is, as I said, because the relative plane is bottom up. We think, even though I've debunked it now, but let's just say that there are atoms and it's made of units, or whatever those units are, it's made of that. Yeah. It's bottom up. In the relative plane, it's bottom up. It always has to be built through a process. You need the foundation, then the next thing, then the next thing, then the next thing. And as I said, and this isn't even just for physical things, even for conceptual forms, there has to be an axiom, something that you're assuming, and then you build upon that, and then you build upon that, and then you come to your conclusion. And the fundamental problem with that is that if your axioms or your assumptions are wrong, even if just one of them's wrong, then all your conclusions are false. And then furthermore, remember how I was saying, you might use someone else's, like Einstein's like thing to like use it as a thing to build your thing. So then, as I said, what if he's wrong? Furthermore, not even just what if he's wrong. People think scientists, they'll say, they'll use like some scientists, or they'll say, science proves this. There was an experiment and it proves this. First of all, like, have you ever done science? Like, you could get like two different groups of scientists and they'll do the same experiment. They could, first of all, they're going to get different results. Even the same scientists, they're going to get different results. Yeah. So that's already one thing. Then let's just say they got the same results. They're going to have a different, they're going to infer something different from those same results. You can get scientist A and scientist B, and they both get result C, and A and B, A and B. All right, cool. There might be very small time where they agree. Even if they agree, they're going to agree a little bit, but they're going to, a lot of times, these top scientists, they're battling. They're like, just look at history. This top scientist will be arguing with that one, and then this one, and then this guy thinks it's this, and then this guy thinks it's that. And then that guy was, and then later, 100 years later, you see, that guy was right about this small thing, and then he was right about that, but then he was mostly wrong about that, and so on and so forth. So even like, no matter what past assumption you try to stand on, it's gonna just get chopped. So it's all about the ground. I'm trying to show you that reality is groundless. There is no ground. It wasn't created, because everything here is bottom up. But what I'm trying to tell you is that God, from the absolute, creates top down. Because it's in eternity, there is no process. There is no time. So you see, for example, how you as a human can imagine, like, let's just say I'm telling you, imagine the beach right now. Just like that, you've imagined the beach. Imagine the park and green grass. Imagine the blue sky on a summer's day. Imagine a swimming pool. Imagine a beautiful lady by your side. So all of that, you just imagine that. You see how, like, all right, cool, it may have required like 1 joule of energy, or like maybe one, like the smallest bit, but really it was instant. Really it was effortless. As soon as you had the intention, it appeared in your mind, right? I remember how I was explaining fractals and holography, and how even the Bible says we were created in God's image. And I'm explaining to you that we're just a microcosm of the macrocosm. Same way which is a microcosm, and we can imagine a smaller thing, which is the thoughts or the imagination of the sky. That's even a smaller microcosm within our macrocosm. But then the macrocosm of us, which is the absolute, as easily and as effortless as you can imagine chocolate or a flamingo, as easy as you can imagine it, just like that. Just think about it. Just how easy, just think it's there. That's how easily God can construct the whole of existence. He literally is outside of time. The moment God thinks, I'm going to create this, is there. Physical reality is God's mind. This is God's imagination. It's an infinite dream in God's mind. So Same way you're imagining let's say you imagine a human, and that human is in your mind. This is all in God's mind, but God's mind isn't located anywhere, and it isn't anything. So, let me just get to my notes now, man. I'm gonna just get serious, and I'm gonna conclude all of this, because every single point I make, it goes on to something else. It goes on to something else. So, all right, cool. The main point of this part 2, part 1, all of these things, what am I really trying to get to? As I said, I was trying to explain to you the absolute truth, which is all there is. There's nothing other than this absolute truth. That's the only thing that exists. So, but why is that even important? What is reality made out of? What is it made out of? How did it get here? How did it get created? Who created this? Through what process? When? How? Who? All of these things, right? And I'm telling you that it's made out of truth. It's not made out of atoms. It's not made out of energy. It's not made out of consciousness. It's not made out of fucking whatever the fuck you think it's made out of. It's made out of truth itself. And you think that truth, because remember what I told you, the map is not the territory. So everything that you think about truth is not all wrong, but it basically is wrong. You just have all the wrong past connotations and anchors of what, when you just hear the word truth, you hear the label truth, the word truth. Your mind has already got so many fucking, oh, when he says truth, he means this. Oh, when he says truth, he means that. No, I mean, it is itself. This is the clear difference. Is on the relative plane, everything is defined by what it is not. That's why I was explaining, if you're tall, you can't be short. So what is form? A white controller, the whiteness is defined by the opposition against black. What a white controller is it's not a black controller. It's not a blue controller. It's not a red controller. It's not a remote controller. It's not a piece of paper. You understand? So everything in this world, dualistic dream, is defined by what it's not. But in the absolute is defined by what it is. It is itself. And it needs nothing else to support it, because it is the support of everything. It's like it's like you're a fish in the sea. It's like you're a fish in the ocean and you're asking me, where is the water? Where is the water? Like, you see how there's a white controller, a black controller. Now imagine a controller with no color or form. A controller with no color or form. Like, what does that look like? You see how there's no scale, because nothingness, there's not even a form. Do you understand? Formlessness, that's what I'm saying. It has no edge, no scale, no attributes. Attributes are forms, limited. It's limited into this. It's constricted into this. What this is defined by everything that it is not. For this to exist, something else has to not exist. Do you understand? That's why I was explaining to you, you think that this world could be some other way. Like, you think, this world is nice, but if only we got rid of mosquitoes, or if only we got rid of homicides, or war. War, why does that exist? Why does evil exist? If there's an all good God, why does that exist? You think, it'll be perfect if we just got rid of that. Just no war. It'll be nice. You don't understand. Like, if war didn't exist, or if any single thing in existence, that grain of sand in fucking Hawaii, that grain of sand and this piece of dust, If that didn't exist, the whole universe couldn't exist. Either nothing exists or everything exists. There's no in between. It's either nothing or it's everything. So, as I said, in the lower planes is bottom up, because there's just the absolute, and then it's divided, and then it's divided, and then it's divided, and then it's divided, and then that division's divided, and then that division's divided, and then that division's divided. So the way I can explain it properly, right? Yeah, this is why I wrote this in my phone. This is gonna explain things nice. So yeah, as I explained, in the absolute, everything is defined by what it is, which means it is itself. So what does that mean? That means that the truth is true. What is consciousness? Consciousness is consciousness. Consciousness is conscious. That's what it is. You are conscious. Consciousness is conscious. Humans are not conscious. Consciousness is conscious. There is only one thing that's conscious, and that's consciousness itself. There can't be many consciousnesses. There can be like incarnations within the one consciousness is the same consciousness. But like, and then it has its own little individual awareness, and then it sees that much. When I speak about awareness, I speak about through your senses. Everything through your senses that you see. And think about what is a sense? What does it mean to have senses? I was even thinking about this earlier today, because I even saw like a camera or a sensor. There was one thing, I was at work and we walked past something, and then the door, like there was a sensor, it done an alarm. And then even CCTV or this sensor, it can sense things, even though it's not aware, it's not like a sentient being. It's a fucking like robot, it's a fucking camera. And even that can sense. So what does it mean to sense? Sense just means the ability to perceive change. As I said, everything in this is change. So what triggered that camera? Or what triggered that CCTV? How does the CCTV recording things? It's just saying, all right, cool, it's taking a picture, and then, oh, in this next frame, it moved from there to there. And then in that frame, that thing moved from there to there. And then the change will always be different, but it's just only about recognizing change. And obviously that, as I said, is a scale, but it's just about recognizing change. That's sense. And all forms are changing, as I said. All forms are appearing. But you can't sense something that never changes. You can't see. That's why everyone thinks, where's God? Like if God was somewhere, surely I would see it. It's everywhere. What's not God? Like people think like, like show me God. Like show me something that's not God. Like the chair you're sitting on, the screen you're looking at. I was gonna say the person you're speaking to, which is true, but I'm not just speaking about me though. I'm even speaking about you, but you don't even know that. But anyway, so let's just get back down to bare bone details. So, as I said, there's the absolute, and there's a split of the relative truth and the relative falsehood. But really, as I said, there isn't even any. There's not absolute falseness as well. There's only absolute truth. And why is that? Because then you're going to think, but surely there should be absolute falseness, because that's the opposite. But what I'm telling you is that truth doesn't have an opposite. So it has to create an imaginary opposite. And the only way, the difference between why there's like truth, right? But like why truth is kind of, even though it's on the same level on the relative plane, like why truth is actually above falsehood is because falsehood, even though it exists on the relative plane, it's basically the shadow of truth. Do you understand? Like this is only defined by what it isn't. Do you understand? Like, and it is what it isn't. So it's encapsulated. So I remember I had this conversation with my cousin, and we kept going back and forth, but then he was saying, oh, but shouldn't it be absolute, like negative? But then we can even use maths here, and it's so perfect. Like, for example, in maths, if you have a plus, a positive, and a plus, and a positive, it equals a positive. If you have a minus and a minus, does it equal minus? No, it equals a positive again. Like, because, and then if you have a plus and a minus, then it just comes out to 0. So that's what I'm really saying. It's really, there's just 0, nothing, or there's like substantialness, but there isn't really substantialness. It's just kind of on lease. So really there's just 0, which is the realest thing, is the absolute. But you could think, as I said, all these words are analogies, so it's not really exactly like this, but it's kind of like this. You could think the first creation was 1, which is a unit. So there was just 0, which isn't even a unit, basically. But then 1 was created. Once you create 1, and the fundamental axiom, because remember how I told you, every single dream, the waking dream, that's another thing that people might say, but in this dream is so solid, the laws of physics, like constants in the dream, like I can fly, but even in the dream, there's rules. What you're trying to tell me is that there's laws or rules. But even in the dream, like you didn't fall through the floor, or maybe you fell through the floor, but then you fell. So that presupposes gravity. No matter what fucking appearance there is, there has to be a rule or a condition or an axiom behind it. It could just be, you could have a rule that you can fly. You can have a rule that everything is flimsy and this and that. And like one second you was in this room and then the next second you're in that room. That can also be a rule. That's also a limitation. It's just that in this longer dream, things seem more constant, but even there's fucking glitches in this fucking longer dream. People just deny it because the mind already has a presupposed bias. Oh no, this everything in this world is logical. So if something illogical happens, then they just dismiss it, or they say, there must be a logical reason behind it. We just don't know it yet, or whatever. But as I already just debunked to you, like the absolute is above truth. Even though it is absolute truth, but like it's above like relative truth, relative false. It's above relative right or wrong. It's above existence, non-existence. It's above logic or illogical. It can be paradoxical. It can be contradictory. Contradictory does not necessarily mean it's wrong. It is true. It is contradictory. It is. It's true that it's contradictory. Do you see? So maybe it may contradict a relative truth that you was trying to argue for. Yeah, it might contradict and debunk that, but it doesn't debunk truth itself. So that's what I'm saying. It's the ultimate container that no matter what form falls away, the container is still there because it's empty. You kind of think of it like nothing. For nothing to truly be nothing, there has to be something instead of it. There has to be a form. This is something. If there's not something, this is why the whole of existence like exists. You think, why is there something out of nothing? Something didn't come out of nothing, but really what it is just that this is a placeholder. They even say in maths, 0 is a placeholder. So, and that's why it's always changing, because even though it is always equivalent to itself, as I said, you could write 1,000,000. How many equations could you write? Different equations. Like this equation 1 is different from 2 and 3. And for all of them are different, yet they're all equivalent to the same thing. Like you could write infinite equations that are all equal to 0 or all equal to 5. So that's kind of literally like what this is. All the frames are different things that are all equivalent to the same thing. That's why it can never be lost and it was never created. It's just the same thing, just always in flux, just passing on to the next one, 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 on to the next one. Because if it got stuck at any moment, then that's what it would be, which means it would be limited. It would be that form. But it can't be because it has no form. What other than itself is sovereign? So think about it. All right, cool. I explained about the limits, right? But why is, as I said, because it's absolute, that means it's the only thing in existence. It is existence, right? So think about it. If anytime you were limited, like let's say, for example, like your body, you can't fly. Why is that? Because the laws of gravity and the laws of physics, which is a larger piece of the whole on, it's just a larger piece that you're within, and then there's smaller pieces within you, your organs, your things, and that. There's a whole universe within you. You could even just go into your one organ and there's a whole universe in there, and then you could zoom into one cell and there's a whole universe in there. And then, as I said, you can zoom out. But sorry, I lost my train of thought there. One sec. So yeah, the moment it gets stuck, it would be that way, and it wouldn't be zero anymore. It wouldn't be nothing. It would be something. It would be that. It would be that which is not this. Do you see? So all of existence, all of forms are either this or that, and obviously there's scale, but it's always defined by what it's not. But as I said, the absolute has no opposite. That's what all the opposites are playing within. So, as I said, so there's just zero, and then the first thing is one. And then the fundamental axiom of the whole dream, in my opinion, the fundamental axiom or assumption is that one must equal to one. And that sounds so stupid. This is what I was saying about self-realization. When you realize, oh, I am myself. Truth is true. And all the logical, scientific people, you're going to say, oh, those are, like, you're just self-reinforcing. It's just a loop, which means that it has no validity. And then you think, for example, we need something other than itself to back it up. That's literally what I'm saying is about the whole relative plane. Like, for example, if I punch you in the face, it's gonna hurt because there's gonna be it's gonna hit your nerve endings. You see that, like, the nerves is not the hand, it's not the pain. It's the nerve, and then that's gonna go to your brain, which is not the nerves, which is not the punch, which is not the pain. So essentially, within the thing, everything that is, like, if you say explain this, you're gonna explain it with things that are not it. Everything that you explain about this is going to not be it by definition. And then, because you have the fundamental assumption that everything, like, for this to exist, these are all the, first of all, you assume this exists. Second of all, you assume this exists as an independent object. Like, there is a real boundary here which separates this phone. This phone is different from me. This phone is different from this controller. This phone is different from this chair. Like, it's its own, like, contained, this is its own thing. Then you think that it exists in time. And because it exists, someone or something had to create it. And for it to be created, there has to be a process because of time. So you see how many layers of assumptions you've already added. And then if it was created, then it had to be created by a material or some kind of unit. So we could say, oh, this was made out of plastic, which is made out of these plastic polymers or whatever. And then that's made out of these atom things or these whatever units. So all of those things, right? All of those assumptions. And then it always has to be built up, bottom up. And then you build the foundation. So you've got the atoms, and then you build you put the atoms in a particular way, and that created that polymer, and then you put it in this way, and then that created that phone, and then you put in some metal, and then you see everything that you're explaining this by everything that is not it. And it's true, because on the lower planes, as I said, everything reinforces itself. It's like a house of cards. That's why I said that you can't have one thing without it. Even if you took out that one mosquito, the whole of existence would collapse, because everything reinforces itself. Like, everything reinforces everything else. Not everything reinforces itself, but everything reinforces everything else. And then if you took out one thing from the foundation, it would all collapse. And the fundamental axiom, you remember how I told any condition, any world, any existence, any environment, any manifestation or dream or whatever, as I said, has to have axioms, assumptions, whatever, right? And this axiom, the fundamental axiom for this whole existence, is that 1 is equal to 1. This represents truth. It has to be itself. If 1 is not equal to 1 and truth is not true and consciousness is not consciousness, you can't build anything. Like, actually think about it. If it, like, just even on the relative plane, if a brick wasn't a brick, like if I put it there and then there's no brick there, so then I put a brick and then I try to put a brick on top of that, but there's no brick there and there's no brick on top of that. You know what I'm saying? If I say I'm a human, but a human is not a human, so then what am I then? Do you understand? It seems so stupid and logical, but this is how the relative plane works. This is how the devil works. This is how everything's created the illusion, because everything is not what it is. Within the relative plane, within the devil's plane, which is controlled, which kind of like, in a sense, the devil controls this whole relative plane. God is the absolute. He controls, but everything within this relative plane is essentially kind of controlled by the devil. But really, the devil is not opposite to God. He's just his main agent that he sends down. Because really, you think about it, it sounds so fucked, but God essentially kind of gives the devil this one mission, the most important mission, which is to create falsehood, which is to create what doesn't exist, the only thing that's not real. And then that whole thing, that whole play, as I said, because God has to incarnate and then realize, so it has to have an opposite of what, like, the devil is essentially the imaginary opposite of God. It doesn't really exist. Or even if you say it could maybe relatively exist, it hinges upon God's existence. If God didn't exist, it wouldn't exist. But God can exist without the devil. That's what I was basically trying to explain here. With the, like, if you have a plus and a plus is a plus, a minus and a minus is a plus. You know what I'm saying? And it always just isness is itself. But you can't just say, isn't itself, like, because isn't, like, if it isn't, that doesn't mean, like, if you're saying, for example, this, like, this isn't not white. Well, how can I explain? But it's tricky for me to explain this to you, but essentially, I'm trying to explain to you why, like, the absolute, there is no opposite. You still think that, there's the absolute truth, which, because your mind, everything you know, everything you've ever learned is by opposite. Me, Nathaniel, me means not them. Nathaniel means not John, not Max, not that thing over there. Human means not a fucking space shuttle. Human means not a tiger. Human means not an ant. I can't be a human and an ant. But that's basically what I'm saying about the absolute, that it's all things at once. It's all things at once. And if you take all things at once, it all collapses back to nothing, because it always was nothing. And that's why I keep on speaking about the X and Y, because if you think about it, why even do mathematicians, they do this clever trick. They say that infinity only, like, starts from 0 upwards, but they don't want to count the minus numbers. Because if you did, you would see that infinity is equal to 0, because every plus number and every minus number would cancel out. Then every plus number on that side and every minus number would cancel out. So it doesn't matter how far you go to that way or how far you go to that way, it always just cancels out. So it's literally just the same point. The universe can kind of expand and play in this way and that way. And that was another thing that I completely forgot about, was the Big Bang. What I was basically going to say in the, like, way earlier, which was that about the Big Bang. And, like, when I was saying, if you think this is crazy about how everything will happen in eternity, and then if you think that's crazy, when did time end, and how that it all goes to the Big Bang, and how other scientists have suggested that it might be possible that there was multiple Big Bangs and crunches. And that's basically what I was going to suggest, is that I feel like the whole Big Bang is just another macro. Like it banged, it just literally was from the 0 point. Because they even say it's all from a point which had everything onto itself. Infinite potential. Boom, it's exploded, right? And then eventually it'll exhaust its potential. And then it's going to collapse. And then you could even say that was the beginning and the end. But then you could even say, oh, then as it collapses, it's just going to explode again. And we don't even know how many times it's exploded and contracted. And you could even say that's just the breathing of the cosmos. That's God breathing. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of what I was saying, how everything life and that, you know what I'm saying? So really that is kind of what it's like, and then it's just going to collapse and then there's going to be a new, because when did even if you say, oh, it all starts at the Big Bang, then what caused that? They still haven't fucking explained it because there's no fucking explanation. Like, even, it doesn't even matter about Big Bang. Like, even for example, me picking up this controller, did I choose to pick that? Did I choose to pick that up? Or, if you really think about it, alright, cool, yeah, like, I was making a video, so I decided to pick up this thing. So that's already one small microcosm. Then the video is a macrocosm, which was a reason why I done that. And then, but then why was I making the video? Oh, and then the video, you made that because, oh, you done some things before that, and then you realized something, and then you want to tell them. Oh, then why did I get realized? And then, oh, you got realized because you did this and that. So essentially, my whole point is that, yeah, anything that you say, any kind of condition, like, oh, 9/11. Why did 9/11 happen? Why did COVID happen? Why is Ukraine and Russia happening? Why did why is Jake Paul fighting Mike Tyson? No, that's funny. And then you could say, oh, like when we usually speak, we say, oh, like this is happening because of this. Like X is happening because of Y and Z. And then we create a box. This is everything. If you even realize, everything artificial is a box. That is the matrix. That is literally the perfect symbol for a box. If you go in the city, there's large boxes. We create these buildings, which are large boxes. And then there's infinite boxes inside of them. And then there's people in the boxes looking at a screen on a box. Everything artificial is a box. Is prison. That's basically what I'm saying. Everything is trapped. It just wants to keep you in a trap. Every single concept, belief you have in your mind is a box. Is a box. And what a box kind of represents is that you're locked. That is what it is. It's locked. So yeah, it's not the territory, Big Bang. And I was even there, like, kind of explain with the time and space. And then even, for example, like, because I didn't fully explain it properly, but like, think about it. If there's like a point A and then a point B, which, as I said already, even any point A or any point B, which it doesn't matter what we're speaking about. We could speak about me, point A could be me here, and point B is me in the other room. Or it could be point A could be me here, now, and then point B is me here now. You see what I'm saying? So essentially is that space or time, it's like, because the moment there's a space between A and B, it could be geographical places or even a situation or a scenario, there's always a discrepancy. So that's how time gets created, is always the discrepancy. So that's why, and because it is always anchored in zero, that was another thing, is that, for example, why is the US right now like the world's leading power? It's because it's got, it controls the central banks, the US dollar. We don't want to go into all of that, but essentially, the US dollar is the world reserve currency. So everything else is kind of being compared against that. So it's kind of like the central anchor. Remember how I was telling you anchors, you have anchors in your head. And what is that? It's a constant. Something that remains the same all the time. So essentially what God is, or what the absolute is, or what the 0 point is the anchor. Because, as I said, there's infinite frames and fluctuations and different conditions, which are kind of like, as I said, represented by a different, like, what fucking, like formula or whatever, like, or you know what I'm saying, you know what I was saying with the maths, like, like x plus it is equal to 0, or like 1 plus 1 is 1 minus 1 is equal to 0, 5 times 0 is equal to 0, 100 minus 100 is equal to 0. All of those are different equations, but they all are all equivalent. They're all equivalent to the same thing. So same like that. This frame of consciousness, or this frame of truth of life is different from this one. You see, you wouldn't be able to see this one if it was the same as that, because it would actually just be the same thing. Like, it actually just would be the same. Like, people think, like, imagine I was someone else. Like, what would it be like if I went into the body of someone else and I was like in their consciousness, and then it was me being aware of their thoughts? That's exactly impossible. If you had their thoughts, you would be them. There wouldn't be a you anymore to perceive it, because the thing that you think is you is empty consciousness, and it's just filled with different conditions and programs, which are your thoughts and your assumptions and your axioms. So if you had their assumptions and axioms, you would be them, because the screen is the same. You think you have a different screen. You think you have like a separate soul, your screen, and then your things are on that screen, and then their screen, and then their... No, it's the same screen. It's just different axioms or programs or conditionings. So if you wiped all the conditionings, all the impressions, or if you kind of subscribed and you kind of went into someone's brain and then you had their conditionings, unless there was some strange way where you could overlap and have them both at the same time, which I don't think is true, because the moment you like overlap your one in, it would have to like cancel out some of theirs. That's what I'm saying, because there is only one space. There is only, and remember I was telling you, all right, cool. Even if you think everything, like reality is made up of multiple things, loads of different things. And then I said, what is it contained within? Most people would say, all right, cool, space. So what is space? What actually is space? What's space made out of? It's nothing. Space is nothing. It's just literally just a distance between one reference of nothing and another reference of nothing. like space, like what the fuck is space? Like space is like a capacity of how much nothingness there is. Like you say, the distance between here and here is a large space because there's such a large amount of nothing in between that thing and that thing. That thing is. Everything in between isn't. You're saying there's a large amount of isn't in between this is and this is. And then you're saying that's space. And the thing is, as soon as we give labels, that's why I said language, you give labels. That's why I spoke about the map is not the territory. Because yeah, you say, you know that purple's not purple. But then when I say the word space, you think I'm speaking about space, which I am, but space is space. This space isn't space. So it gets very, very, very tricky. Now, all of that, that's probably already an hour. But now I'm actually just going to go onto the notes and just kind of just really conclude this. And these were kind of like more on like kind of just filling the gaps of part 1 and part 2. So yeah, the main point that I was basically saying is just that truth is not made out of atoms, is not made out of units or stuff or matter, which is like light, slow down, or consciousness or whatever. All of those things. This is another thing about the ego and the spirituality, is that you'll think, all right, cool. There's like the normies, the normies over there who believe in like matter, but I'm woke, I'm spiritual. I believe it's consciousness. I believe it's energy. Yeah, energy. It's just energy, man. Vibration. But you've just used another unit. You still think it's a thing, but it's just that you gave it a spiritual connotation to make yourself feel above them, but you're literally exactly in the same place. As long as you think it's made out of something or a thing, no matter what kind of thing, any kind of thing is within the dream. There are no things in nothing, like in the absolute. So reality is real. As I said, in the absolute, everything is itself. So everything it just makes so much sense. Reality is real. Imagination is imaginary. There is no such thing as imagination. It's imaginary. There's only reality. There's only truth. Falsehood is false. Where is it? Show me. Show me something that's false. Whatever you show me is true. You might say it's false. Like, let's say, like for example, like we might say, this way it gets so true. Like we might say 1 + 1 is equal to 3. Can you see that? Yeah, 1 + 1 is equal to 3. You might say that's false, but it's true. It's false. Let's hear me out. It's false. Like if you have to already subscribe into the lower planes, right? And if we take the assumption that 1 is equal to 1, and that plus, plus means like that this and this, and that plus doesn't mean, sorry, this is, I don't know why it's so, yeah. So if we take the assumption like 1 is equal to 1 and 1 is not equal to -1, if we take the assumption, yes, that plus is plus, and that it means that these two together are not this minus this, then like if you basically follow all the axioms that just normal people subscribe to, then yes, 1 + 1 is not equal to 3 in the relative plane, but this exists. 1 + 1 is equal to 3 exists. It's true, that is false. Do you understand? Like, when I'm saying falsehood, like what's really false, if it was really not true, you wouldn't be able to see it. Anything that you see, when I say it's an illusion or a dream or it's not like absolutely true, that means I'm not saying that it doesn't exist or it's not true, but I'm saying that it's not what it appears to be. This appears to be a piece of paper, which is a physical object made out of atoms, which would be here or like which wouldn't be here, like which would still be here if I wasn't looking at it or you wasn't looking at it. But what I'm saying is that there is no physical world out there. There's no physical anything. This is what I was kind of getting on with the quantum mechanics, is that I need to look at this for this to be here. You need to look at this for this to be here. If I don't look at this, you don't look at this, where is it? So it's like, yeah, there's just zero, right? Which is the quantum field. And there's kind of oscillations of possibilities. But the only time that this, look, like where's that piece of paper now? It doesn't exist. And then you might say, oh no, it exists. It's just sitting on your lap. But then see, you think that I have a lap. You think that there like are legs which are made out of atoms in this physical objective world, like on Earth, in space. So that's what I'm saying. It's always about the ground. It's always about the ground. Like, where do you think you are right now? Let's say you're in England or something, or you're in your room or something, you're in England or you're in USA. You're not in England, or you're not, it doesn't even matter. Even if you think you're in England or you think you're in USA or you think you're on Earth, where is Earth? Oh yes, in the solar system. Where is the solar system right now? Where is it? Really, where is the where are you right now? And then you say, oh, it's like, I don't know, somewhere in space, somewhere. You're in the middle of nowhere right now. You are in the middle of nowhere. You are nothing. You're nothing. Like, what are you? What are you? Like actually, like stop look like you're, as I said, like you're trained right now. You think that your consciousness is here looking out. You're so conditioned, so programmed, all your axioms, you're so like used to in your senses looking out. Like even right now, you're looking at the video, you're looking out. But for once in your life, look back in. Look back at you. Like, look, what's there? And then you'll realize, wait, there's nothing there. There's nothing. Like, you actually look, try to look, find yourself. Where are you located? I'm not speaking about this body because you could chop off this arm. That's another thing, a good technique, yeah? Like, because most of you probably aren't even enlightened yet. But to at least get to that stage, as I said, because this absolute, it stands on its own. So instead of trying to look for what's true, instead of trying to think, oh, like, is this true? Is that true? Instead of trying to go in a substantial way of it, oh, is that true or is that true? The best way to do it is skepticism. You try to debunk everything. Don't try to make it right. This is where people, all kinds of scientists got something wrong because they already had a pre-hypothesis. They already had a way that they thought it was going to be. Every single scientist, every single observer is self-biased and has limited data. Remember, I explained all of this before. So... let's just look at some of these. Yeah, and so another thing is that, for example, consciousness, as I said, a lot of spiritual people, you might be enlightened and you think, oh no, but it is made out of consciousness. Consciousness is nothing and it has no particular form, but it's just made out of consciousness and it's kind of is true, but remember, I actually know it's truth. It's truth. Consciousness is a capacity of truth or of God to recognize itself. Remember, see, it could still be true without it knowing that it's true. You see, it could be true still even without being conscious that it's true. So consciousness, and you do know this deep down, you do know that consciousness, even though it's so close to the fundamental, it's still not fundamental and it's still not absolute. And everything else is contained within consciousness. So the dream world, the absolute world, is contained within consciousness, but it's not like made out of it. And it's not like held, it's not like consciousness can only be consciousness is because truth is true. Like if truth wasn't true, consciousness would not be conscious. And the world would not be the world. And real wouldn't be real. You know what I'm saying? So then there would be nothing. The reason why I am myself, like in a sense, I am the truth, but I'm not really, like, I am myself. You are you. In a sense, from the absolute, we're the same, but we're actually not. But like, there's not even like, but now it's not even on the lower frames, as I said, to where you think, oh, I'm here and you're here, but then we're kind of reinforcing each other. It's not even that anymore. It's just that there's just, and because remember, as I said so many times, yeah, that it is itself and how it's just circular and it loops back. And then a lot of logical people will say, oh, that's just circular logic, so therefore it's invalid. And I understand why, because it seems paradoxical, but that it does not mean it's invalid. The reason why it's like that, because it's just a circle. I remember how I told you everything is cyclical in nature. Like even time, like what do we say is a day? A day is when the earth rotates once. A year is when the earth rotates. Remember, everything is a reference point. Everything is just measured against itself, because there is nothing other than truth or existence. Non-existence doesn't exist. Do you get it? You start getting it now? The problem is, yeah, when you're in the relative plane still, you still think that there's existence and non-existence. But even non-existence doesn't exist, or it exists as non-existence. Do you see? And then for you to say, oh, non-existence doesn't if you start to kind of get what I'm saying now, no matter which way it's true. That is the way it is. You can say, oh, it's this way, or it's that way, or it's that way, or it's that way. For you to say it's that way, that means you're saying it's true that it's that way, not that it's false that it's that way. So, all right, cool. Yeah, as I've explained before, it wasn't created. It's not supported by anything. It's not like eternity or nothing has to be somewhere or stand upon something, because everything else stands upon it. It is the ground. That's what I'm basically saying. It is out of nothing that everything arises as something. But nothing, how could you create nothing? When did nothing begin? Where is it? It's nowhere, but really it's everywhere, because nothing is everywhere. That's what I'm saying. Things exist instead of it. Think about it. If there was no things and there was only what you think would just be nothing, then that's what it would be, and it would be a thing, and that's what it would be. But to actually be nothing, there has to be something. There has to really only be things. And then non-existence is non-existence itself. So I hope you start to get it now. And yeah, so when I say, for example, on the self-realization stages that I am myself, and how it's that certainty. So like at the bottom, it's like, oh, I am myself. But then you think about when you say I am myself, you're referring to this body or this brain or this thoughts or your emotion or your personality or whatever. Just the particular form that you are now. I'm this way, not that way. I'm this way. Remember, it's always comparison. But your particular unique form, that's kind of even what exists. What people think existence, like what is existence? Existence literally is uniqueness. This exists because you think, oh yeah, there's thousands of white PlayStation 4 controllers, and there are, but none of them are this one. There is only this one of this. There is only one of everything. There is only one of me. There's only one of you. You could never clone it. You could try and clone it. That clone will be a little bit different. You know this. There's no two same things, because then it would be the same thing. It would just be one. So you can't just replicate two identical things. It can't be identical. One of them is going to be a little bit different. This is obvious stuff. All right, cool. So yeah, and then so as I said, on the relative plane, everything's different, everything's unique. So for you to say you exist, it means that you're true. First of all, underline, it means that it's true. You're true. That's really what you're saying. But then what you're also saying is that I'm true, that I am this way, which is unique to me, and no one else is like that. That's literally what you're saying when you say I exist. You're saying I am here. Yes, it's true that I'm here. First of all, that's why I'm saying that truth is fundamental, because without that, nothing else could arise. It is the first fundamental. One has to be one. And remember how I even told you 1 + 1 is equal to 3. That's already gone a step too far. That's already beyond the axiom. Even with 1 equaling into 1, like we could still get like this arising, but not in a mathematical way. Like the reason why I did this specifically, because in mathematics this is wrong, but you can't say that this, even though it's wrong, that it doesn't exist or that it's not true. It's true. It exists as a falsehood. Like people, like for example, Father Christmas or the spaghetti monster. You would say that it does Father Christmas exist or the spaghetti monster. Again, it comes back to the physical paradigm. People say, oh, no, it doesn't exist. It's not physical. It's not actually there. But Father Christmas does exist. It's just that he exists as an idea. You see, things don't have to be physical for them to exist. That hallucination that you saw, people say, oh, that wasn't real. But it was real. It was there, right? It's just that it wasn't a physical object. Like, I'm not saying that it was right. I'm not saying that it was accurate. That like if you saw a blue monster, you saw the spaghetti monster. If you saw the spaghetti monster, I'm not really saying that it was there. It was physically there. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that you actually saw it. It was true that you saw it. No one else saw it, because what overlaps with everyone else, and this is where we have to realize consensus reality. What people really think, how truth works in the relative plane, is we just come up with a consensus. We just all agree on something, even if it's wrong. Even if it's wrong, but if we all agree on it, like money, this is how it works. We all know money doesn't mean anything, but we all collectively agree on it. We agree on a collective delusion, and we just say, you know what, we're just going to turn a blind eye for now because it helps us. It helps us. It's a useful lie. So, and this is why you will never hear this stuff that I'm saying, like on mainstream. You'll never hear it, because this is, even though it's good, and in my later videos, I'm going to make more, I'm not only just going to speak about absolute truth, but it's going to kind of have the core of this. But in my other videos, you're going to see how all of this is actually very practical. It might just sound like I'm just saying philosophy, but when you understand this, and then you understand the ramifications, and then you act and you adjust accordingly, things will go very well for you. Because a lot of times people are doing shit, and then they're even your own energy, your own efforts are going against you because you're misaligned. But also what I am saying is kind of bad for society, because a lot of it's all based on falsehood. So all of this, I'm kind of chopping down everything, all the foundation. So this isn't going to be promoted. Let's just put it like that. So yeah. Yeah, and as I said, everything on the lower thing, everything has attributes, particular forms, unique. It's particularly that way. It's not that it exists because it's white, and it's this form. This exists because it's this form. This exists because it's this form. But then the absolute, in a sense, you could say it doesn't exist. But I'm saying it's true, but in a sense it doesn't exist because it has no particular form, no particular attributes. As I said, and it's everywhere. It's nowhere and it's everywhere. You're like a fish in water. You think, where is it? Because you want something, you want this piece of paper, that's God. But then, you see, because that's a boundary. But then really, that is God, but that's also God, and that's God, and that's God, and that's God, and you're God, and I'm God, and he's God, and what isn't God? What isn't God? That's the question you should be asking. All right, cool. So that's that. Let's see. The physical paradigm, top to bottom. Yeah, another thing as well is kind of, as you increase your consciousness, is about kind of going more from dense levels to subtle levels. As I said, nuance is like on the lower levels. As I said, the lower levels can explain themselves, but they can't explain above them. And even worse is that first of all, they don't even know that stage is above them. And even worse is that and this is kind of what you realize about a lot of people and bots in nowadays, they could be so stupid, but what's crazy is because they don't even know that there's levels above them, and no matter what level you're at, unless you're kind of humble or whatever, but pretty much all the levels, they kind of still, because everyone's self-biased, everyone still thinks that they're at the top, no matter what level you're at. So even the people at the bottom, there'll be someone above them who's explaining something to them, right? But because they don't understand that there's levels above them, and furthermore, they can't understand them, they'll label everyone that's above them as below them. So let's say, for example, as I said, religion has its downfalls and is ultimately wrong. Science has its downfalls and is ultimately wrong. But still, science really is kind of encapsulates. Remember how I said you could be really deviated away or really close, but science really encapsulates more of the truth. It's kind of more accurate than religion in most cases. But then, like, if like some religion guy is speaking to some scientist guy, he's gonna say that the science guy is below him, but the science guy is actually above him. But then the scientist guy, he might speak to like some spiritual guru guy who's awake and realized, and then the science guy, even though he's above religion or whatever, and he might say that, oh, that spiritual guy, he's just some religious, like, some religious fucking fanatic. He's gonna, you know what I'm saying, he's gonna box him in the same thing and say that the guy that's above him is the guy that's below him. And then, and they're gonna group them down. They won't even be able to, because as I said, they won't even see the nuances or the differences. But the main thing, so that was a wrinkle of the stages, but also on the lower stages, why do we call people thick or dense? It's because, remember how I said the physical paradigm, solidity, things that are really solid, obvious, stark. Like if I punch you in the face, if I burn you, you don't need to fucking be a genius to realize you're burning. Ow, that hurts. It's really obvious. It's stark. It's solid. It's there, right there. It's dense. But then you have to be a genius. You have to be a genius to understand this particular equation or this particular like thing in wildlife or whatever. Like things that are really like, if you show the average guy like some crazy equation or some law of physics and why this does this in this condition, they're not gonna fucking understand why. If you explain, if I show them this video, they're gonna think this guy's gone off the rocks. Like, this guy's lost it. Like, what the fuck is he speaking about? Speaking about absolute, speaking about God, speaking about particles, holons, and this and that. This guy has lost it. Like that's what they're gonna think, because they're so dense and this is so above that they can't register it, because they can only register things that are really stark and obvious. And then as you go up and up, you start realizing the subtle and subtle and subtle things. And the subtle levels don't contradict the levels below. They encapsulate them. They explain the levels below and more. Do you understand? So as you go up, it's about becoming from the density to less dense, less dense, less dense. And that's kind of like how you're floating up. And it's literally like the angles. As you're more dense, you have more angle. It's kind of weighing you down. The gravity's, you know what I'm saying? You want to rise back up. But then even all of that, that's good. And you have to do all of that. But on the ultimate level, even the density and the thing, even all of that is within the dream. And really, there's no difference between density or low dense or high dense. But as I said, you can't just fucking skip to that. You can't just go from dense straight to that. You have to fucking go from dense to less, dense to less, dense to... And then only when you have that minimum density, only from there can you even get to the point to where you realize, oh, even if it has any density at all, then even that is a lie or a form or a... You see? So, but first, it's kind of like you're climbing. Like, let's say you're on this platform and you want to get to that platform, and then you use a ladder and then you get there. But then from there, you want to get to that one, and then you pick up that ladder from there to kind of get to that one. But then you kind of like drop, like certain times you have to jump from one illusion to another illusion, which is less of an illusion, to debunk this one. And then only from there you can start debunking that one. But you can't fucking say, oh, that's just an illusion, so I'm going to stay in this illusion because that's an illusion. And I'm not going to use something that's an illusion to debunk this illusion. I'm just going to stay here. Do you see? So sometimes you have to even, it's kind of like a slight, you kind of have to make a compromise and realize, even though this guy said that is not really consciousness, but to me right now in my stage of development, it seems like everything's consciousness. So don't just, this guy said, that's why I said, don't believe or anything. Always be true to yourself and where you're at. But yeah, so that's that. I've explained the difference between the waking and the sleeping dream. Self-realization. Oh yeah, so on the absolute thing, because remember how I said everything on the relative is opposites, this or that, so on and so forth, subject and object, and how in the absolute there's no space or gaps for subject or object because there's no contrast, no anything. So really you could think of self-realization or the absolute. When I say self-realization, that's just realizing or coming back to the absolute, right? Rather than being in the dream. You're not stuck in the dream. You're out of the dream. You're just in the absolute now. Which, even though the dream is within the absolute, but now it's just, you see, like you're just, yeah. So As I say, it can't be explained through words, but we try. But you could think of self-realization or the absolute as the collapse of the subject-object duality. It's just of all dualities. It's the collapse of all dualities. That's as simple as that. It's literally the collapse of all dualities. Another key wrinkle is that on the relative, everything is causal. Remember how I said how there's really an infinite, and this is kind of the word of karma, and like how really you think there's free will, and there is kind of, but even though there's free will and you do have some capacity to choose, whatever you choose, you are always going to choose that. That's where we kind of get with the determinism and free will. People think it's either free will, either I can choose, which means the future is like undecided and I can choose and it can be anyway, or it's determinism and everything's predestined and I don't even have the capacity to choose. But I feel like it's, as I said, it's neither this nor that. Neither this nor that. That was another thing that I got sidetracked. But yeah, for the people who's listening to this, you're probably not even enlightened. So before you even think about getting self-realization, you have to get enlightened. And what you need to do, as I said, is use the neti method. That helps a lot, which is using the skepticism. So because the truth stands on its own and it will be true, even if you believe it or not, stop trying to believe stuff or think, oh, I think it's this. Let me say, because then you're always gonna get it wrong because you're gonna think that it was that, and then. So essentially, what I'm saying is, you're way less likely to get trapped, and you can get there quicker and easier if you debunk everything and see what remains. Just debunk everything. Everything you can cut down, just slice it. Not this, not that. Am I this body? No, like I could cut off this hand, I would still be me. I could cut off this arm, I would still be me. I could fucking be in a bomb. There's people, they don't have no limbs. They had limbs before they're here. They're fucking even on a tube. They can't even fucking breathe by themselves, but they would still, if you ask, are you still you? They might say, oh, I changed a lot, or, you know what I'm saying, but they're still them. So it's nothing to do with these conditional things. So everything you do is always neti. You slice everything down. Anything you can debunk, you debunk it. And what remains, what can't be debunked, no matter any condition, that's where you start to, so what if, like, that's why I was trying to tell you, think of something else. Think of something which isn't a state of consciousness. Think of something which isn't true. Or which doesn't exist. Think of something which doesn't exist. Like, what doesn't exist? And then remember, I'm not saying, it doesn't exist as a physical object. No, I'm just saying what just doesn't exist at all. Because remember, I've already debunked physicality. You can't say, I think of this Santa Claus. Look, here's something that doesn't exist. It does exist. You're showing me a picture of Santa Claus which exists, which doesn't exist as a physical being, but physicality is already lost. You can't use that as a ground to support or explain this appearance. Remember, everything's appearance. So the physical paradigm backs it up. It's got something holding it up. But what I'm saying is there's nothing. The appearance, as I said, so in the relative, everything supports itself, it builds itself up. But in the absolute, because the truth is true, remember, look, and that's why I was saying everything is nothing, because it's circular. The circle always just represents nothing, zero. It's circular. It always zoots back to itself. But because the truth is true, because it is true, and reality is real, and existence exists, you see, so everything can be within the absolute truth. So everything is just allowed to be itself, and then there's nothing needs to create it. There's no process. This is an eternity. I've already debunked time, because time is within it. It created time. Even limits. You think, there's no God that could go like, even if I was to tell you God can create things from the future to the past, instead of from the past to the future, like linear, like he could create like this. Remember, I was explaining how God creates top down, so he doesn't need the process. He doesn't first need to create atoms, or first create a big bang, and then there's going to be materials, and then time's going to go on, and then first I'm going to start putting these materials like this, Now I'll put these materials like this. No, it's just like that. Boom. And then, yeah, and this is where it gets tricky because, as I said, there's no physicality. So this is just consciousness. This is just truth, right? You could almost think of consciousness as how truth appears. Because remember, I said everything is appearances. There's just appearances. This thing appears this way. That thing appears that way. There's only appearances. But you still think that there's something behind it. You still think this is a human. You still think this is a screen. Like this human is on the screen, which is in this room, which is on Earth, which is in the solar system, which is in the Milky Way, which exists, which is real. And so you keep on trying to ground it. You keep on trying to explain it, right? Like what made it happen. But that's why I'm saying, because we're in eternity, like even time and space arose as the Big Bang happened. But the truth was true. It still was itself before even that arose. That was a condition. That was the beginning of all conditions. So yeah, it's acausal. It's uncreated, uncaused. Your mind won't understand it. That's fine. You don't have to understand it. In fact, it's impossible to understand it, but you still can realize it. It won't be far. It won't happen by watching this video or by doing meditation for a week. Remember, even in my first video, I said 7 to 8 years. Really, I've been on this path for 10 years. I genuinely think about the first time I even heard of the concept of enlightenment. I'm turning 25 this month. And don't even try to think, he's only 25. I can't take him serious. Time, age is an illusion. Even that's another video, something that I heard as well. And it actually changed everything for me because it makes perfect sense because it's aligned with truth, is that competency is the only thing that matters in the end. You can't tell me, this guy like does some perfect thing and then you're trying to say, but he's only 14. I can't take him serious. But if he's fucking right, he's right. It doesn't fucking make any difference. It's only about truth. What's true? Okay? That's the only thing that matters. Please just get it. Yeah, and I even showed this to my friend, but he kind of misunderstood as well because I understood. He was like, but what are you trying to say with the videos? Like, yeah, but like, I'm still kind of confused. Like, what are you trying to say? And I was just telling him that it's made out of truth. It's not made out of like existence or made out of like time or space or atom, whatever you think it is. It's not made out. It's made out of truth itself, which can never not be anything else. It's just true. But then even then he was like he got it, but he still thought like even like that's how computers are created with the ones and zeros, and that's true, but that's the relative plane. You've already. Even those ones, what those ones represent on like computers, you see how everything's created. Even this computer, this screen, everything that's created. Think about all the games. Every game, think about the infinite universes in games. Think about Call of Duty, FIFA, Fortnite, UFC, fucking every infinite games. All just happening on a screen, 2D screen, with pixels of zeros and ones. That's it. Zeros, either it is or it isn't. So these kind of represent the absolute, but really, when you take the ones kind of that represent truth and the zeros that represent like falsehood, these are still on the relative plane. That one doesn't actually represent the absolute truth because where are the ones and zeros happening? You see? So, yeah, that's that. If I had to kind of come up with some words that would kind of help like describe it to you, it would kind of be like beingness or isness. Like what is ising? What does it mean to be? I'm not saying be this way, be that way. I'm just saying to be at all. To is. I'm not saying it is that way or is that way. That's why I kept on saying that it's unconditional. It's where was the word? But yeah, that's why I kept on saying that the absolute, the self is unconditional. It has no attributes, attributeless. Because it's not about being this way. It's not about existing or not existing. It's not about being good or being bad or being true or being false. It is. Even if it's false, it is. What does it mean to is? See, that's the ground bottom of reality. That is what it's made out of. Isness itself. If you think it's made out of like atoms, no, it's made out of one which is equal to one. So as I said, there's just the zero. Then the first thing is the one which is equal to one. And then everything else is just a infinite multiplication of one. Remember the tree I said? The one that gets split into two, and that branch gets split into two, and then that gets split into two. But that one has to equal to itself. It always must. That's the only thing that anchors everything into reality. That's why no matter how far it goes this way to the left or that way to the right, or no matter how far it deviates, it will always kind of remain balanced. Yeah, so beingness, existence, like isness, just a... Hello? This. Doesn't matter if it's this way or that way or on or off, like this. And I'm not saying, this room, this physical room, or this physical body. I'm not referring to this. I'm just referring to this. Hello? Like, yeah, so there's that. All right, cool. I'm going to end this with, as I said, I'm going to make like way more videos as well. Like when I saw kind of the response for the first couple videos, because initially, I didn't even know if I was gonna start making these videos or anything like that. Like just that first video, you can see from if you watch it at the first couple minutes, because I still wasn't even kind of used to speaking and all that. But even then, like I didn't even have the intention of uploading that. I just felt, I don't know, I just had the compulsion to record something, and I was just kind of explaining it. And then I was rewatching it, and I realized like this is valuable, like, and especially from my reaction from certain people. As I said, I don't speak to a lot of people about a lot of this stuff because I already know that I don't even try. But when I realized how much it helped them and like how I can actually help people, that's when I started thinking, you know what? And then when I uploaded it, because I even wanted to just upload it to Google Drive, but then I was trying to send it from my phone to my laptop and it wasn't working. So I said, you know what? I'll just fucking upload it on YouTube. And I was going to even put it on private, but then I was just there. It said public or private. I just fucking said public. Fuck it. Let's see. and then I kept on watching one, and then like there was a few things I had to fill in the gaps. So I just made two, and then I've uploaded that. And then those two were there. And then now I've seen a decent response. So I'm thinking, you know what? Fuck it. Like, and I'm kind of excited. I enjoy it. Yesterday, I wrote down a list. I already have like fucking 20 videos ideas lined up. And they're going to be unique. They're not going to be things that you just hear everywhere. There might be some things that overlap, but yeah. So I wanted to end this with a few questions. Because as I said, I can explain this to you, and I would really recommend you watch this over and over. You need to keep watching this. I even wanted this to be short, but this is already broken up in multiple sections, but even this section alone is an hour, and the one before that was a half an hour. So I feel like this is all going to come to like 2 hours. Even part 2, I thought was going to be like 20, 30 minutes, and it come out to over an hour. I didn't mean to do this, but it fucking happened. That's why I said it's a tree. It really it's just infinite. That's why this is perfect, because I could speak forever because it doesn't end. That's another fucking thing of the relative plane, is that it's incomplete. Even go on YouTube and type in the video incompleteness theorem and just the zero player game and watch that thing. Like that video, it will fully, like, even just watch Strange Loops or that zero player game, the incompleteness. It will explain everything, because it literally, the guy just puts a few fundamental axioms and then he just presses play or run, and then it creates its own universe. It's like no one's doing it. No one's creating it. It creates itself. He just puts the fundamental axioms and then it happens. And that's kind of how I would say God did it. People think, God is controlling every little thing. I would say no, like it's just God just created and his hands off the wheel. That is its goodness. Because if his hands was on the wheel, we wouldn't have the ability for choice. He kind of creates it completely neutral. Because everyone wants it to be biased to them. But if it was biased to them, it would be bad for everyone else. So it'll be fucking stupid, imbalanced, skewed wrong. So it's completely balanced, completely neutral. Right? And this way is perfect as well, because then no one force can ever gain a complete monopoly on the others, even though they can for a supposed amount of time. But that's what, as I said, it's always time is what will eventually get them. So even if it looks like Google is up right now and they're the biggest company or whatever, or USA will always be on top, eventually USA will crumble. But yeah, the main thing is that you have to realize this yourself. No matter how many words I say, it won't help. You can keep on watching over and over, and you can do meditation and all that stuff. I'm going to get in more into tools that you can use, self-inquiry, all of this stuff. But I just wanted to give you some questions that you should question yourself. Like, really try, just actually try. If you've made it this far, then you're serious. And those are the only people that I want anyway. Like, I don't want them, you know what I'm saying? So I want serious people. So if you're here, you're serious. And if you do this, you can actually attain to this. But, as I said, not even in a couple weeks and that, but yeah. So that's enough explaining. I'm going to tell you the questions. So you just want to ask yourself these and actually reflect. So, what is true now has always been true and would still remain true in all infinite possibilities or permutations of the possible future. So you see how the future is undetermined, right? So we don't really know what's going to happen tomorrow. We don't even know what's going to happen next second. But what has been true for you your whole life is true now. It's always been true. And no matter what happens tomorrow or the day after, England gets invaded here and that happens there and World War III happens and this and that, AI takes over, whatever the fuck happens, yeah, it doesn't matter. Try and think what is true now, what has always been true your whole life, every single second. And no matter the conditions, it will still be true. What's that thing? Is there. You have to find it. That one thing. What is the thing? And maybe it helps to get rid of the future bit, but just really think about what is the one thing that's always been true and it's true right now. And no matter what condition you could even possibly imagine, like no condition could arise without that thing being still true. That's what you need to, so that's one. Even that alone will fucking, I've designed these perfectly to kind of just, I'm trying to make you just, like, it will literally, when you just get it, it will just, of course, it's not going to be like, oh, like maybe I think he means it. Like, if you think, oh, I think he means this, does he mean that? You don't have it. You don't have it, okay? So number 2, what is the one thing or aspect about yourself which has been with you since you can remember and remains unwavering into every moment and including now? So everything that's changes, like for example, your body, like yes, you always had your body, but you wasn't always this tall. Like these arms, you know, your cells, they die every second, like millions of cells. Like, so this arm that you have here is not the same arm you had 5 years ago. Even your thoughts, like the thoughts you have or you believe, your assumptions, think about what you believe now and then actually just go on your phone, watch a video of yourself from 5 years ago and what you were saying and your opinions. It's completely different. It may overlap like 60% or something, but it's different. Otherwise you're still 5 years ago or you just were stuck in a loop. But really it's different. Your ideas are different. Your body's different. Your environment's different. It might still be the same geographical fit. This room, this is the same room. This room, if like someone, like even if a friend, yeah, comes to my room now, who hasn't been here for a couple months, they're going to be like, oh, right, this thing's different. That thing's different. So if you haven't come for a couple months, a couple years, then everything's going to be different. I painted my walls, I painted all this kind of shit. So everything's changing anyway, right? So everything that's changing, like if it's here now, like, oh yeah, like, I don't know, like maybe it's like, maybe it's like maybe it's my vision. Maybe you're speaking about my vision. I've always had my vision, but you don't have your vision when you sleep. You see? Or maybe say, oh, like, yeah, my hair. I've always had my hair. Or I've always had this nice skin. But these skin, as I said, there's no really such thing as skin. It's made up of loads of cells which are always being interchanged. Skin is just a label. It's just an imaginary box that we co-believe in. It doesn't really exist, but it's just consensus reality reinforces it back to you. Everyone says, oh yeah, skin exists. As I said, same with money, but money's obvious. Everyone kind of knows that one, but skin, if you tell them skin doesn't exist, they'll think you're crazy. So yeah, the main thing is that it's literally the same as the first question. What's been with you and is with you now, but the main thing is you have to think, what is the thing that's with me now and has been with me and it's never changed? So think like, this is changing, whatever's changing, but what is the one thing that's just always there? Always there. All right, cool. So those were 2 questions. I think there was a couple more. Yeah, so using your direct experience here now. So your direct experience. But remember, as I said, it doesn't really mean, like, when I say your direct experience, I'm not saying only physical things, like, I'm only registering this, but if I have a thought or imagination of my head, it's not. No, you register even that thought, even though it's not physical, but it is an appearance within consciousness. So any appearance at all, no matter how subtle or dense it is, if it's here now, even if it's imaginary or hallucinatory, is there. So anyway, any appearance, so use your direct experience. Your direct experience is just everything you have access to right now. Anything you have access to. Here now. So I'm not speaking about tomorrow. I'm not speaking about a moment later or yesterday. Here now. It has to be your direct experience here now. Yeah? What is the substance of reality? So I'm not saying, you learned 5 years ago or 10 years ago in physics that's made out of thing, and then you remember, and then you, yeah, I know what the substance of reality is. Is this? Or is that? No, just forget all of that. Check here now. Just complete from ground zero. Check here now. Like, what is this made out of? Like, even right now, you don't know it, but if, let's just say, for example, what this guy is saying is true, and all of this, all these different appearances, even this and this, even though they appear different, he's suggesting that it's kind of the same thing, but what is it? What is this made out of? What is it actually made out of? Like, actually check. You need to be thinking for this for hours. Like, this needs to be like your life mission. You're trying to make money and that. I hear it. It makes sense. You need to survive. You need to do all of that. That's calm. But all of that is just fucking, like, come on, man. You just do that so you can really do this. People get too caught in the money thing. You think you're doing something else, but you're still doing the same thing. Survival, what's survival? It's just about food, sleep, shelter, and reproduction. Those 3 things. And then there'll be people nowadays, all the celebrities, all of this shit, they think they're so up. They think they're such high level, high value, man, high value. You're not even high value. You're still, all you're doing is having sex, getting a house and fucking food. But it's just, nice food, nice house, nice sex. It's just literally the same thing, but just a different scale. Which, yeah, is nice, but it's not going to fucking get you anything else. Like, it's just, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, survival should be your lowest kind of thing. Like, you should just handle survival so you can really live and actually question life. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, certain people, I'll be telling them this is serious stuff, and then they'll be like, tell me how to fuck some bitches, man. Like, I hear it, but come on, man. Fucking bitches is not that fucking hard. Yeah, so using your direct experience here now, what is the substance of reality? What is it made of really? Not what you think is made of. What is it made of really? This image that you see right now, what is it made out of? Don't just say it's made out of pixels on a screen. That's already another label, another imagine it, something that you were taught. Don't just say it's a screen on YouTube or what. What is it really? What's that thing there? Realize that you have no idea what the fuck that is. That's what all you have to really realize. Just actually realize, if I'm being really honest, I don't know what the fuck that is. I can see it. I can see it clear as day, but I don't know what the fuck it is. When you recognize that and you admit that to yourself, then you'll start being on the right path, and then you'll start going. But as long as you still think, oh, I know, is this, is that, everything, you're just blocking it. You're blocking it. So yeah, disregard your beliefs, everything you were told, and then I think this one's really good. Yeah, is like try to imagine or ponder or just actually imagine what would nothing look like, or what would it be like before the Big Bang? Like, what would it be like before the Big Bang? Actually ponder that. Like, what would it be like? Or what would nothing look like? And don't just use a second, I think it'll be black, or it'll just be blank, like when I'm sleeping. Just really actually think about it, like, what would it be like? Because remember, sleep as well, even if you're sleeping and you're not dreaming, you're in deep sleep, and then you kind of wake, and then you kind of go into that blank void state that people speak about. Even that is not really, like, that state was a conditional state. You can't really imagine like what that's why people get scared, because they think that death is like sleep, but just forever. But really deep down, you know that state of absence can never go, it can't go on for infinity, because it only exists in comparison to life. So what would actually an absolute void be like? An absolute void, what would that be like? And then I'm not even going to tell you. So ask yourself that. Another thing as well is, as I said, you're conditioned to look out. You're conditioned to look at that, or even in the thoughts in your head. Like, even though it's closer to you, like there's things further away and there's things closer, like your emotions. But even your emotions, there's a gap. Wherever it is, there's always a gap. Recognize. That's why I said consciousness is secondary, because it is time. It's a reflection. It's always looking, a reflection back, recognition. Right? So another thing you could do is, instead of looking out, as I said before, try to look, and I know this sounds stupid, it sounds retarded, but I have a reason for this. Try to look at what's behind your head. Try to look at, like, don't have a camera in front of you, anything like that, right? Just try to actually just sit here, try to look, instead of looking that way, look at what's behind your eyeballs. What's behind your eyeballs? Try to look at that. And it's like that, and it's going to see, that's impossible. Like, I can't check it. Exactly. Like, see that void, that nothingness, that you can't even see it. That's the void, not blackness. You see? So try to imagine what's behind you. Try to imagine what was before the Big Bang. You see that void? You can't even imagine it, because all you can imagine are things. Everything you can imagine is something that exists. Everything your mind can imagine is either something you remember or a culmination. Even things that are created. Really look at reality. Nothing was created. Everything that's created is a merging of two things that already exist. This body was born from my mom and my dad. Like, this controller was created. There was probably another controller before that. So they had the idea, I'm going to make a controller, and then they maybe saw another controller that had these kinds of buttons, like, and it could have even been inspired from a laptop thing or something. It's always just one thing that exists, or multiple things that exist merged, and that creates something new. But that's how everything gets created in the relative plane, because you can't create something out of nothing. It's fucking obvious. So exactly. So everything you can imagine is just something that is input, is data, information that's already in your brain, which is substantial. So that's why you can't imagine nothing. That's why you can't get it, because your mind is trying to grasp, but you can't grasp nothing. You can only grasp something. But yourself. You can get it because you're not your mind. Your mind is only a tool. Your body is only a tool. So that's another trap. You might be, all right, cool. You might realize, all right, cool, I'm not my body, but you still think you're the mind. You still believe your thoughts. You still don't realize that your thoughts arise and fall. And you think different thoughts every day. But you're still you, no matter what emotional state you're in. No matter how your body is. No matter anything, you're still you. All right, cool. Why does it even feel like no matter how old you get, yeah, you still feel more mature? Why do you still feel young? Why do you always feel the same? Like, let's say it's your birthday and you're turning from 24 to 25. Like, am I really going to feel older? No, I feel exactly the same. Maybe my body feels older, as I said, because you know you're not your body. This is just an attachment of you, an accumulation. But you remain the same always. And yeah, as I said, it helps a lot to, instead of trying to find it, try to find what it's not. And then what remains, that will help. So the last question is, what is the only thing I can never get? So if you can get it, money, it's not that. Health, I can get health, it's not that. Like affection and love and respect from those people, I can get that, it's not that. A scientific deduction, I can get, it might be very difficult, but I can get that. It's not that. You know what I'm saying? Emotions. No, I can get those. Thoughts. It's a thought. No, I can get those. It's not that. You see, like this. And then when you realize the one thing you can't get, that's when you start to, yeah. So anyway, that was way longer than I wanted it to be, but it had to be that way. And if you got this far, you're serious, and I rate your thing, and you're the type of people that I want watching my videos. And trust me, if you like this, if you got this far, you like it, then what I got in store for you, you're gonna love it. So yeah, man. Peace, love, respect.